Okay, so today I want to talk about God. I have had quite a bit of a journey so far. I found God at the end of 2023. I went through a really, really bad time with a lot of things in my life that went wrong, and it was accumulated over the years. I cried out to God, and ever since then I have had a completely different life compared to how things were. I have also experienced a lot of different type of reactions. I used to live a very secular life, the kind of life where it's like everyone else would go out partying, would start experimenting with drugs, but for me, I didn't go that extreme. I just tried weed, and I was starting to get really, really into it. Just it was not looking good. And yes, I was drinking for many, many years. So ever since I think 18, I was smoking quite a lot, and I was partying, I was fornicating, I have had so many types of relationships. That all started from the age of 18. So a lot of things have happened during my lifetime. I'm 25 going on 26 this year. Deep down, I always knew that I wanted to find the truth and live a better life, something way more meaningful than just what I was doing. But purely because I was in the wrong crowd, I didn't have the right influence, and then life events happen. I didn't grow up with proper guidance. I'm grateful for what my parents were able to provide for me, but I was not a believer growing up. However, I was baptized into the Russian Orthodox Church, but I never stepped back into the church ever since I was baptized. Maybe once before in my life during my childhood, but that's about it. And I was living life just the way everyone else was living. I was mostly an atheist, but then over the years I started to believe more in the mystical stuff. I knew there was something beyond what I could see. I had faith in something. I just didn't know what it was, and nobody around me was talking about God. Everybody was just busy, I guess you could say, sinning, doing things that are not good. However, they call it normal in terms of all the secular worldly things. I spent years and years numbing myself with substances and people and relationships that just ended up dragging me deeper and deeper into a dark pit that I couldn't help myself from. And the whole idea of you have to help yourself, you have to bring yourself out of that darkness, you can only be the person that can do that, and all of this, like, this is the self, and it's me, and it's ego and it's pride and everything that everybody teaches around me, which is all very common. What I found out, it's all throughout the world nowadays, and people don't live at all with God in their hearts, and they become cold, they become bitter and unkind. And that was me too. I was very selfish, and I tried to have a good heart because I thought I mean, we all do. That's how God created us, to be in his image. But because of my environment and my choices, which were very poor, I just was only harming myself. I was living in a way where I didn't know how to fix the issues that I had and the sadness and the depression that I was going through. But then I was like, okay, well then I have to keep surrounding myself with more and more people, and I was trying everything. I spent most of my early 20s and my teenage years just completely lost. I wanted to find something meaningful, but I couldn't. What happened last year was things got very, very bad, and I couldn't really take it anymore. I have contemplated suicide way too many times, but I never had the courage to do it. I was still determined that I will one day kill myself for sure, because I cannot take it anymore. I felt like everything was just pushing me over the edge. So many failed relationships. My parents divorced when I was 10. I lived with my father up until I was 21, and then he passed away. He was the main anchor in my life. I couldn't live without him. I couldn't do anything in life without him. He was my mentor, and he was my only parent. It was so hard for me, and I tried to keep going in life, but I was always just thinking I wanted to join him wherever he was. I didn't know anything about Jesus Christ. I didn't know anything about heaven or hell. I didn't really believe in any of that, or more like I didn't really understand. I was met with a person last year. This person whom we were trying to date. We quote unquote got into a relationship, but as I am coming to the point where I'm healing already from this, I realized that actually I cannot call it a relationship, because it was just one of those secular, I use secular a lot, the word secular. It's just very modern way of dating, where you sleep with each other, where you just do things for your own selfish desires. And at one point, I was so head over heels in love with this person. However, this person was caught up in their own reality from their past relationship that this person had, that they still couldn't get over. However, they moved on too soon, and I ended up being misled and misunderstood, and I fell in love too soon. I also was lusting. This person was also lusting. So there's a lot of things that was wrong about this. I suffered with a very, very severe broken heart. And of course, I had other relationships that broke my heart as well. But it was nothing like this. It brought me to my knees. I was going through a very difficult financial time. So difficult that I didn't know what to do. I barely had any savings left, and I didn't know how to fix the situation. I was in a job that I didn't actually truly enjoy because of the environment. It was very toxic, and the people were just making me very miserable. I wanted to get out, but I felt so trapped. I have a mortgage to pay. I have my car to pay, and I have to support myself. It was just really not easy. My grandma, she's the only person whom I consider family. The problem is she doesn't live in the same country as I do. She lives very far away. We also have a language barrier. We don't speak the same language. She's old. Of course, she's not working. So there were these combination, just to summarize it. That's the combination of the problems that I had. The burden just got so much for me. Really didn't know what to do anymore. That one night, I was contemplating life and death, having either the devil take my life right now, or God comes in and save me, because I don't know how to get out of the rut that I'm in. Lo and behold, everything that happened ever since then is basically a blur. Everything happened so fast. I found God. I was so passionate, wanting to reconnect, and then everything, one thing after the other, all the turmoil, all the suffering and everything, it was reducing, and everything was slowly like a jigsaw puzzle just coming into place. Things left, things changed, I changed, and then all of a sudden this enormous amount of wisdom, it was placed upon me. Day after day, I was seeing things in life very, very differently, and I felt like I was growing finally. I was maturing, and I was becoming stronger, and I can see how the life that I used to live through others, the way that they're ruining themselves, and it was almost as if God was telling me, like, that was you at one point. Look how far you came. I understand now that that was humility. I started to do so much self-reflection. I spent all my time alone. I didn't want to be with anyone. I didn't want to surround myself with anyone. The first thing I gave up was alcohol and smoking. It went so fast. I didn't even look back. I was not tempted. Nothing. My father died of alcoholism as well. It was something that I felt like it was a demon. Not only ruined my father's life, it was trying to ruin mine. That went out the window, and then I started to learn about why I was trying to get in all of these relationships, and why love never worked out for me, and what was wrong with me, and everything. All the questions that I had over the years, but nobody was able to answer it. All the self-help books from my bookshelf and everything that I've read online and what I watched on YouTube, it never worked. I found every single answer when I started reading the Bible, when I started researching and listening to pastors and priests talk about purity and just being celibate and modesty. I felt like, where was this all my life? Some will be judgmental. I had this judgment from the most recent person that I was with, and he goes, wasn't that obvious? I don't want to get into details, but that kind of judgment is just very, first of all, we shouldn't be judging anyone. Not everyone has the same upbringing, not everyone has the same background. I feel like it's better to help and guide them, but don't degrade them and make them feel stupid, dumb for not knowing something like that, what some would call, that's obvious. You shouldn't have done that. Well, if you think that way, then what about the rest of the world? I was not properly taught about this in my household and in my family because I came from a broken family, and honestly, we're all imperfect. We all have issues. There's something that my grandmother tells me. She told me recently, and she says, mind your own business. It's like the best advice that I could ever give to anyone. Of course, we're not perfect. We will go ahead and talk negatively about someone. So going back to my testimony, it was a blur. Was so confused about which church I should be joining. I looked at all the denominations, well, the main ones, Protestant, Catholicism, and Orthodoxy. I was baptized in Orthodoxy, but I had no clue about that. I was not ready for that kind of depth. It's very detailed, and I was so new that I couldn't really take that in. It was too intense. I started going to the Protestant church because it was more easy, and it gave me some time to ask questions and learn about faith, and I'm grateful for that. When it comes to what is real and what is truth, God, the Holy Spirit, will guide us to where we should be. I have my own opinion about why I ended up coming to Orthodoxy, which is the Russian Orthodox Church. I feel completely at peace with where I am here. Everything makes sense for me. I have just received my first Holy Communion. I'm still learning about everything here. I know that this is where I'm supposed to be. I became a completely different person in my spirit. I felt the healing within my soul because it's just the presence of God in my life that I pray to Him every morning and every evening before bed. There's a very good advice that the priest from my church, and he says, you'll take your whole lifetime to learn how to be a Christian. When we're in the right place in life, we don't have to rush through it. We just know we need to just keep walking. You need to enjoy the journey, the path that you're walking along. I spent most of my life, when I was a non-believer and I was so lost and miserable, I was rushing through every single thing. I was rushing through my relationships. I was rushing through every career and every job, every activity in the daily basis, on a daily basis that I'm doing, like cleaning my apartment and brushing my teeth. Oh, I'm timing myself. Oh, I have to do this and do that. And it was just always around the clock, and I was chasing things like expensive things and money and status, being somebody, clothes, travel, vanity stuff that actually doesn't end up mattering. And the moment that I realized that is not what I'm supposed to be focusing on, and it didn't bring me joy, it hit me the most when I was just sitting on this ferry coming from an island. I live in Thailand, so there's an island down south, and I was just coming back to the mainland, about to drive back to the capital. I was sad, I was miserable, I felt disgusted with myself. I partied every single night while I was on that island. I had the money to spend. It wasn't like a lot of money, but I had enough. I didn't have to think. Like if I was hungry, I can just go and buy something to eat, or if I wanted to buy a drink, I just go and buy myself a drink. It wasn't like, oh, maybe I shouldn't or whatever because I couldn't afford it and stuff. I didn't have to think about that. Like that was the stage of my life. I just got my car for the first time. I was just living I guess what you could say is like a financially abundant life, but I don't have any soul left in me. I felt like death. And as I was sitting on that ferry, coming back to the story, I saw this family, and they're just some local people on the boat. They had 2 children, and it's the husband and the wife, and they were just happily taking pictures with each other. The children and the family, like they looked very average. They dressed in very mediocre clothing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I dress mediocre, like there's nothing wrong, but I'm just saying it in a way where we label these things in this world where there's levels and status and what others would call like just basic people. I looked at them, and they looked so happy with their lives and themselves. You can see the joy in their face. And I think for those who have been depressed or who are still depressed will know when they see someone who's so happy and joyful from the inside, and you can feel that because you have nothing inside of you. You just feel dead. And when I saw them, I knew that they were happy. I sat and I watched them for like, I don't know, a solid 10 minutes, like just looking at them and how they're taking pictures and they're playing with each other, and I don't know. I cried. I sat there by myself, alone. My friends have left. We all parted ways. I was just going back to reality, and I sat there and I was so unhappy. And I couldn't stop the tears from falling. It just kept coming. While I was driving back, I also was crying. I was still living that life for several months, and then I met the most recent person. Another cycle of pain that I had to endure. When we go through these moments in life, it's purely because it's supposed to not only teach us a lesson but bring us out of the darkness, because it's very it's not complicated, but it's very complex, and there's this mystery as well of God that we don't really know why. Sometimes we can, no matter how hard we try to comprehend certain things. For me, in my case, it was the fact that I was living this life on a high horse, and I was full of pride and ego, and I was bringing myself basically to the edge of the cliff, and I was almost just giving my life up to sin, and I was definitely going to hell, and it was just, I was already starting to look like hell. The Holy Spirit really led me, saved me basically from just quitting on life. The more that I have moved away from the world, and I'm coming as close as possible to Christ, it felt like this life all of a sudden is so much more vibrant, and there's so much to the beauty of life itself, and whatever that I was chasing in the past, I knew it didn't mean anything. I just didn't know why, and purely because I was chasing the wrong things. And once I started chasing God, I don't even turn back. I don't care as much. I started to be a lot more distant with people in a respectable way, because I knew that I don't depend on them. I was able to finally remove everything that was bringing me down off of my body, and I was able to walk as myself, that some people didn't like, and people rejected, what the world didn't like. Life has never been the same. I have remained celibate for the longest time that I've ever remained celibate, from the time that I was starting to get into this like sexual sexual immorality phase where everyone was sleeping around and stuff, like from 18 years old. So I was becoming the same way that I was before I was 18. That time I was not pure, but I was more pure than I was after 18. Nothing really matters anymore, and I don't need to search, I don't need to look. I am here and I am home from the depression and anxiety, paranoia, just struggling and wrestling with the reality of the world and the things that people did to me that hurt me. I let that all go. I just went deeper into the whole of like my existence, and there was a point that I'm repenting and everything. I was depressed for some time because I was ashamed, because I was living so poorly, so far away from God all these years that I felt like I wasted. I felt disgusted with myself. I couldn't even look at people around me for some months because I was, I think, angry at all these people around me who led me astray, who didn't tell me, who had also no God in their lives, and they were just bringing me to sin. Why didn't they help me? All of these questions. They're in the same boat as I am. They cannot help themselves. If they can't even do that, how can they help others? They have been conditioned to believe that they can do it on their own, so that it's easier for the devil to take their lives at the end. God respects everybody's choice and free will. The devil has been so smart with the way that it manipulates people, bring the people away from God. That's the sad reality of the world. How I found God was through suffering. The previous person that I was with, he was not fully a Christian. He was trying to get into it. His journey and everything, that is for him to look at. I don't want to talk about it here. He planted a small seed by talking a little bit about God to me. And then also I went to Europe. I saw churches and I saw the statue of Jesus being crucified on the cross. Things like that I saw all around me when I was over there that I didn't see while I was here. I have found myself finding more peace with being in solitude, being alone. So I'll end it here for this portion of the video. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.